Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I'm going to do another one of these how-to videos for you guys. We're going to discuss the Sumo Deadlift, which I've been meaning to do, and actually a coach friend of mine, she has been pestering me and told me she's going to pester me every single day until I make this video. So I figure, what the hell, it's 5 a.m. on a Sunday, it should hopefully be pretty quiet outside. It's a good time to do it. So Diane, here's your video. Sumo Deadlift. Some things that we need to discuss with the Sumo Deadlift. This is the squattiest of the deadlifts. It is the most technical of any deadlift. Generally, out of our classic exercises, the conventional deadlift is so simple that you can teach someone inside of 5 minutes how to do it, and they should never need another lesson the rest of their life. It is the most simple. It is the single most simple exercise to learn out of any multi-joint exercise, a conventional deadlift. Like, if you can't do it right, you should probably just give up on training at that point. It really is not difficult. The sumo is on the other end. It is quite a bit more technical, and it's easily the most technical of any deadlift that exists. The problem is that most people approach it like they would a Romanian deadlift. This is, again, one of my examples, people love these, of doing the noob sumo deadlift. This is what a noob sumo deadlift looks like. Oh man, beast mode, beast mode. Okay, this is what they do. Now, what all are we doing wrong? First of all, they're just basically bending over doing a stiff leg deadlift. They usually use a medium stance, toes are forward. The weight is sometimes as far as 6 to 8 inches too far forward. Then they're just bending over, right? They're treating it like a true hip hinge, and it looks like a stiff leg deadlift almost. That is not the correct way to perform a sumo deadlift. The sumo deadlift is the squattiest and the least hip hinge out of any deadlift that you're ever going to do. That is confirmed with studies looking at it. People will try to say, well, the trap bar, no, the trap bar still has more hip hinge and less squat than the sumo deadlift does. Now, one of the things you guys are going to notice, I am wearing socks, even to do a lightweight. Why do you think that is? We don't wear deadlift socks just to look sexy. We wear deadlift socks to protect our skin. Because if you have a bar with even the most remote coarse knurling, you will rip your shins open and bleed all over the weight room on your warm-up sets. In other words, if you're performing a sumo deadlift correctly, you will rip your skin on the knurling. This isn't always required for a conventional, because usually a conventional deadlift, unless you're fat, your shins are inside the knurling, other than maybe when you get to the knee. Less of an issue for most people depending upon your form. All right, deadlift socks. So we're going to be very, very close to the shins. Deadlift belt. We need a belt. Do not do a sumo deadlift without a belt. I don't care what your personal philosophy is. I don't care if you care about beltless training. Sumo deadlift benefits greatly from a belt. Again, improved neuromuscular efficiency. For those saying, well, what if I'm using lightweight? If you think that the amount of weight you have on the bar matters for belts, you don't know why we wear a belt. I have entire videos on why we wear a belt. It's nothing to do with protecting your back. So let's set this up and show you guys how we do this. The main thing to remember is that on a sumo deadlift, we want our center of gravity as far back as possible. When you have people who are like, well, I can't turn my toes out, I lose my balance. Yeah, because you have the bar 4 inches too far forward. So let me strap my belt in, see if I can still talk. All right, on a sumo deadlift, we come in and you want to be as close as possible to the plates. Now, people who are going to say, I don't have the mobility for that. That's why we box squat. The box squat builds your sumo deadlift, right? They go together like peas and carrots. It will teach you and train the mobility that you need. Okay. Toes should be almost to the plates. In my case, I'm going to stop them an inch short because, again, I'm barefoot here. When you perform a sumo, notice my foot angle. I'm not even at 60. I'm almost all the way out, okay? My toes are way past even 60 degrees. Okay, we're way out so that we can turn our knees completely out. On all other lifts, we talk about the master cue being that the bar should be mid-foot. If your toes are turned almost all the way out, which mine are, look at the angle, okay? The bar being mid-foot means that the bar is basically going to be a ½ inch from your calf. In my case, because I have 18-inch calves, without training them, I wish they would shrink. My calf, my gastrocnemius, is basically when I just flex it, it touches the bar, okay? This is our position. This is our stance. My knees are out, external rotation of the hip. Now, how do we further reinforce external rotation of the hip? We need a small amount of posterior pelvic tilt. Your butt does not come back on a sumo. You do not have anterior pelvic tilt. You have posterior pelvic tilt. You roll the pelvis forward. Because when you lock it, that's exactly what you're going to have to do because your knees are turned out. You have a wide stance. You can't lock with your butt back. Look at that. See, it will pull me forward at the lockout. All right, the lockout, you've got to have the pelvis forward slightly. All right, the other mistake people make is that if they don't know how to find their hip position, and I did a whole video on this before, you can't look down. And here's what I would say to people who want to look down to find the bar. You can't find the bar. It's touching your shins. For God's sake, you don't know where your shins are? Right? It's touching them. Okay, so the sumo deadlift. Okay, pelvis rolled forward, knees are out. But notice my pelvis is rolled under. Deep breath, shoulder blades down and back, arms straight down, squat to the bar, pull, and you drive through with the hips. Okay? Like that. Notice when I drive through at the top, we roll the pelvis forward. And this is hard for me to do. I haven't done any sumo deadlifts this year. So what are our take homes here? Foot position matters a lot. Because the thing is with the sumo deadlift, because we're trying to keep it pulled really far in and we want to keep our torso upright, we want to minimize the amount of forward lean of the torso. Okay? And if that torso leans forward at all because you can't find the correct position to squat to it correctly, when you do turn your toes out, you tend to lose your balance because the bar is too far forward. You're probably starting with the bar 2 or 3 inches away from your shin. Okay, that's a problem. It needs to be touching your calf basically. So if we're touching the calf, it really looks like this, okay? And yes, because you don't have your toes forward, it's hard for you to maintain balance. But if you keep the bar mid-foot and your torso up, you don't have to maintain balance. It's when we put our toes forward, okay? When people do toes forward, well, they've got to do this. Their shin comes forward, their knee comes forward, right? And people who are starting too far forward, they need their toes forward to maintain balance. They need them to pivot off of because their bar path is 3 inches too far forward. It's in front of their center of gravity. They lose their sense of balance. But when the toes are out, you lose your ability to balance yourself. So you have to put the bar in the correct position, but that's good. That's what we want on a sumo. You don't want your torso bent over. You need your torso upright, your pelvis rolled forward, like this. And then you explode. Okay? You grip it a little harder and do that. And you just stand up. Now, let's talk a little bit about the mobility side. Take the belt off. A lot of people will say, well, I don't see how the box squat will build your mobility for that. Well, because on the box squat, we can control height. We can use different height boxes. And what did I say in the box squat tutorial video? That learning to do the box squat with toes out can develop your sumo deadlift. I talk about a lot of times we start like this. We work on building a box squat, right? Whew. Notice how similar that looks to a sumo deadlift. But over time, with the box squat, we can adjust our heights. We can learn to sit back and go to a dead stop at these deep angles, deep hip angles, but also we can learn to go wider. And when you learn to go wider, compare that to a sumo deadlift. It's the same movement. So as you build strength on a box squat, you will build the muscles that you need. Usually people who can't go wide, they have an adductor weakness. They have, again, inner thigh also through here. They have weakness here. Weakness here, their VMO is usually weak. Okay, it's a muscle weakness. What is it I always say about mobility? Mobility is not a flexibility problem. It's a muscular weakness. Okay, it means you're weak at the terminal edges of your range of motion. Well, what makes muscles stronger? Hypertrophy. You need to build the muscles up involved in order to fix the mobility. And the box squat allows you to progressively do that. You can start with a stance like this, right? And then over time, you can work on the mobility. Okay, this has a stretch in my groin right now because I haven't been doing these really wide lately. So I've lost a little bit of that mobility. I could stand to rebuild it. All right, the box squat allows you to build that. And this is a good training tool for that. So I would say to anybody who is trying to learn the sumo deadlift, the best thing you can do is box squat. The box squat will teach you how to sumo deadlift. It will build the mobility you need in your abductors, adductors, the VMO down here, all of this stuff. Because a lot of times when people try to do this stuff really wide stance, it hurts right through here. Because they haven't worked that part of the quad effectively. It's underdeveloped, it's weak. So therefore they struggle with a wide stance sumo deadlift. Okay, so it's a hip issue, it's a quad issue. There's a lot going on there that needs to be fixed, and the box squat is a very, very powerful tool for hypertrophying those areas and making them stronger at the terminal ranges of motion. If they get stronger at the terminal ranges of motion, you're going to find it easier to assume the correct stance on a sumo deadlift. And when you can assume the correct stance on a sumo deadlift, you can pull the bar further back. Because again, if you think about the knee angles involved, you need to be able to clear the shin and the knee on the way up. And if you can't pull them back far enough, the bar can't clear them, right? The bar can't clear them, but when it can, and we're all the way out, your knees, as you bend, they go outward, they don't go forward. Okay, so the mobility we need to build is for the knees to track out and follow the toes pointing out. Then the bar path is further back. We can stay more upright and pull up. The sumo deadlift is a box squat. It's just a box squat performed holding the bar in your hands instead of sitting on your back. It's essentially the same exercise in terms of movement pattern. There's some differences on range of motion. There's some differences in muscle distribution, obviously, but the movement pattern itself is so similar that the box squat itself will build your sumo deadlift. It will actually build it. You could get really strong at box squats and you're going to start with a really strong sumo deadlift the first time you do it. Okay? It's one of the most important tools for building it up, and I cannot stress that enough. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.